Hello, I am back with another episode of Skoldiers and Spice. I'm your girl Sally here on the Vikings First and SKOL Network. Our undefeated Minnesota Vikings are taking on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets in London in just a couple of days. I have always wondered what it's like to be an international Vikings fan. My guest today has done that on both sides of the Atlantic. We are going to chat about the Viking season thus far, and she's going to fill us in on all of the happenings going around London in anticipation for the game Sunday. Let's get into it. Hi, this is my friend Nicole. We know each other from surprise, surprise, Vikings Twitter. She is the host of the Name One Player podcast, and she's a Canadian Vikings fan living in London. Hi, Nicole.
Yes. Hello, Sally. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I think we're all doing so good. The Vikings are undefeated.
So good. Like I've never been better, really.
Exactly. I know. Anytime this week, like something kind of bad happens, like literally when I was at the dentist this morning getting a filling, the drill's in my mouth, and I'm just like, just think about the Vikings beating the Packers. Just think about the Vikings winning in Lambeau. It's fine. Didn't even need a
That's
Xanax.
hilarious.
Normally, I need one for the dentist, so it's working out well. But yeah, we're going to get into everything going on in London in a minute here. You're going to fill us in on the scoop, but let's talk about our 4-0 Vikings first.
Yes, let's.
Uh,
I thought you'd never ask, Sally.
I know. Hopefully you're prepared to talk about that.
Oh,
What are your thoughts? I'm assuming you're surprised.
I am very surprised. I actually, today was my last day of work, and I went into work today, and I was telling my coworker who is American, she's from California and doesn't really follow the NFL, told her about the Vikings, and she was like, "Oh, should I go to the game in London? Like, because you can typically get cheap tickets on the day of." She's like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm not really into the NFL," and I'm like, "No, but the atmosphere is going to be crazy. The Vikings are 4-0. They're going into it undefeated." She's like, "No, they're the Vikings? Like there's just no way." I'm like, "No, it's true. It is true."
I know you got even us. We just got to pinch ourselves because it's so crazy. But what are your thoughts? I mean, they just
Exactly.
came out a couple hours ago that Sam Darnold is Offensive Player of the Month,
Love
which
it. Absolutely love it.
he has the most touchdowns in the league with 11. He has only 3 interceptions, which one of them is kind of debatable. And then the other one was a tipped pass. Highest passer rating in the league. What are your thoughts on him so far?
I mean, I if I ever meet that man, I'm going to first off give him a huge apology, heartfelt
Mhm.
apology, because I doubted him. I When I saw that we got him, I did not foresee this happening. I did not see him being offensive player of the month. Like there was just no world where that would have happened. I remember sitting there and thinking like, okay, well, I mean, I guess we'll just scoot by this season and wait until next September for for us to kind of have a glimmer of hope again.
Mhm.
Um, but here we are. I much prefer this circumstance.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that he would be serviceable. I thought that he would play better than he had maybe in the past because he had Kevin O'Connell here
Mhm.
supporting him and making game plans that would make him successful. But of course, I didn't think. I mean, Offensive Player of the Month, most touchdowns in the league. Yeah, right. So I mean, good for Sam. I also feel. I mean, typically, I think I'm usually pretty good on picking up on the underdog stories and who I'm going to root for.
Yeah.
The Duke Shelleys of the world, and I didn't see it coming with Sam. So I feel like I really missed the boat on that, and it makes me very emotional just thinking about his story in general, and I'm just so happy for
Hmm.
him that he's able to experience this success, and I don't even know if he
Yeah.
thought it was possible. that he'd be in this
Yeah.
situation. So,
Well, I mean, I completely agree. I love it. It's just like seeing the positivity surrounding him and just seeing him killing it the way that he is. Like, you can't not root for the guy now. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, what outside of Sam, who do you think has made the biggest difference this season? What is the biggest difference?
um, I mean, I don't even know difference. I just think seeing Justin Jefferson healthy again
Mhm.
and seeing him out there shining. I mean, he didn't really have too much going on with him last game, but just knowing what he's about to do and knowing that he's there and knowing that he's happy to be in Minnesota and happy to be with Sam. I just
Mhm.
feel like that energy is so apparent.
Yep.
But changes wise, having Aaron Jones on our
Mhm.
offense, I've said it so many times. I couldn't stand that man for many years. I could not stand him. And
Right.
now I think he is one of the best parts of the Minnesota Vikings. I think he's incredible.
I know. It's like for years, it's like, get out of here with that stupid sombrero. So stupid. Now it's like, oh
But
my
then now
God.
we post him in the sombrero and we're like, oh my god, I love it.
I
Aaron, you're
know.
so funny.
I know. I literally used that picture as a background to like troll some Packer fans on TikTok, and they're very upset about it. So yeah, it is funny how that kind of stuff can change, because it always makes me nervous when Green Bay fans come over here, because of course you want them to do well, and I always just look back and I think of ones like Greg Jennings, or ones that you had
Mm.
very high expectations for. I mean, with Greg Jennings, I remember thinking, okay, well, he must see something in Christian Ponder that I don't, because he could go anywhere and get a nice contract. So he must see something. And then it's like, no, no, he didn't. So it's always, yeah, it's working out really well so far. So that's a relief.
Hmm.
And yeah, it is funny. You touched on Justin Jefferson. It's so funny how not even 6 months ago, people were saying, Justin Jefferson is going to not re-sign his contract. He doesn't want to play
Yeah.
with Sam Darnold. He's going to do a holdout. And look at us now. So, all right. Well, let's move on to what's going on this week. We got an Aaron Rodgers, or the ghost of, I don't know. He's kind of
Yeah.
he hasn't been playing
Yeah. He's
well.
looking rough.
He is. He is. I will give him a pass. Well, not necessarily a full pass, but the weather conditions in that last game were atrocious. So nobody really got much going at all. But he's given a lot of compliments to the Vikings this week in
Oh,
interviews.
has he?
Yes,
Okay.
specifically Harrison Smith, and he talked about him a couple of times about how he's still at the top of his game. He's still got more years left in him. He mentioned how Harrison always plays really well against him and has picked him off twice in his career, which, if I had to guess, I would have thought it was more than twice. But
Hmm.
how are you feeling going into this week about the game in general? And then we'll touch on, the whole experience.
Yeah. I mean, I am feeling good about it. I think it's going to be a win. After watching last week with the second half of the game, I'm a little more hesitant to be like easy win 100%
Mhm.
because the team is still showing us that the second half of the game, sometimes they can get tired, sometimes they don't carry that momentum. I'm so happy that we got a win, but
Yeah.
it's still showing us that there is that potential for the Vikings to play like the Minnesota Vikings do and lead us to a ton of stress, be sitting there tweeting like, "Oh my God, what is going on?" Um,
Right.
so I could see that happening, but I
Mhm.
do not see a loss. I think the Minnesota Vikings will walk out of this with a win, especially because of how Aaron Rodgers has been playing. He took some massive hits that last game, and I couldn't imagine getting on a plane after getting hit like that and then needing to go out and play
Mhm.
in and I mean, yeah, we will get into the whole atmosphere in London, but I hope, but I do think that the atmosphere is just going to be such a huge advantage for the
Yeah.
Vikings.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm sure there will be quite a few Rodgers fans out there cheering for him, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be enough to give him that power that he needs because I don't think he has it without it.
Yeah, I know he's gonna. I feel like a lot of. I agree with a lot of what you said. The only chance I think that they have, and again, I feel like I'm being cocky here, but the defense, their secondary is really good with Sauce Gardner and how
Hmm.
they're going to maybe cover Justin Jefferson. But outside of that, I'm not really scared of Aaron. But okay, how long have you lived in London now?
So I've lived here just over a year. I moved here mid-September. So
Okay.
yeah, a year and a bit.
Okay. And have you experienced, obviously not any Vikings, pregame things, but have you done that for any of the previous NFL games since you've lived there?
So I did not go to any of the games last year, did not even really get into the events that the home teams were having. Every single time that they're like during the NFL games in London, the home team has a designated bar for the week. So
Oh,
thought about checking out one of the bars for the Jags, but just never got around to it. And then I ended up traveling. I've been traveling so much this year, but I ended
yeah.
up traveling during the only game that I really wanted to see was Bills Jags last season, but I went to Spain instead. And then looking back at the game, it was a very average game. So I
Yeah.
didn't miss much, thankfully. But no, I didn't really immerse myself in the atmosphere.
I was surprised when I was looking into the London game history. I knew the Jags had played there a lot, but 11
Hmm.
times. It's
Hmm.
almost double. I think Miami's played there 6 times and they've played there 11 times. And they're playing there twice this month.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
which is crazy. So, would you say? I mean, because I would assume that there would be the most Jags fans around there, but I was reading it's actually Miami fans.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, it is interesting because I think I maybe just because my brain always picks it out. I see mainly Vikings fans here, a fair
Okay,
amount of
of
Packer fans, um, the
course.
odd Giants, Jets, but really have not seen a lot of Jags fan or Dolphins fans though.
Yeah, I was surprised to read Dolphins. I didn't know that they'd even played there 6 times. 'Cause I can't think of a time I remember them playing. But so, what is the NFL in London in general? What's the interest? Like, have you
I
been able to
mean,
find people to watch games with, or like what time are the Vikings
yeah.
games on there?
So I'm actually moving home in 2 weeks. So I'm so grateful for this experience and this timing of it. But a big part of why I'm moving home is because the timings for these games are not, I mean, they can be fun, but fun is not the first word that I would use to describe it. So the I guess the noon game for your time zone
Mhm.
is 6 p.m. in
Okay.
London. So it's great for those games, 6 p.m., go to bed at around 10, you're good. The late night games start at 1:25 in the morning. So we
Right.
had a couple of games and I don't miss those games like for the Vikings. I
Yeah.
now have my sleep schedule was all types of messed up because I was staying up on
You were
Thursday and
watching them
Monday
live.
nights to watch the games.
Oh, wow.
And this season, I'm like, no, we're going to put my health first because the Vikings aren't playing. If the Vikings were playing a Thursday or Monday night in the first couple of weeks, I would 100% be staying up. But I will be moving home by the time they play in the evening.
I know. It's like everyone thought the Vikings were going to be so bad across the board. We only got one preseason game, or sorry, one primetime game the whole schedule. And of course, it's against the Bears.
We'll see.
I don't know why year after year after year they put a Bears Vikings game in prime time. I will never understand it. But yeah,
Every year. I don't even enjoy watching it in prime time. So nobody else does.
no, it's always brutal. But as you just alluded to, if things continue how they are, I'm confident we'll have a couple more, which
Yes.
selfishly will be great for the tailgating situation. It will be
Oh,
beneficial,
true. Very
especially there in
true.
December. But Okay, so in general, the interest level, how would you say it is in the NFL
Um, Pretty
before the
good.
NFL?
To answer your question before, the Minnesota Vikings, they have an amazing fan club in the United Kingdom. So
Okay.
there is a casino in central London, and it's really cool. They have Red Zone going, but then in other TVs, they have the actual games going for all the teams in the league at once, and it's
Okay.
pretty hectic in there. But the Vikings fan club will often have meetups and we'll have a little section to watch the Vikings game. But in there, you really do see fans from all across the league. And it does seem like a pretty even mix. I think, again, mainly Vikings fans. I think it's the biggest turnout. But
Yeah.
I think it's just something. Oh, hello.
So,
I
yeah.
think
So we
it's
had to pull
just
Dolly up here because she's being bad.
oh
She's being
no,
so bad.
Sully.
Last night I had Josh Tennesoda here and he was here in person and she chilled the entire time. She did not move once. And today she's like, Mom, get off of that freaking turn those lights off. So my apologies, she was making a bunch of noise. I did not mean to
Do
distract.
not apologize at all, at
Yeah.
all. Um, but yeah, going back to it, I think it's just something different. I mean, I think the NFL is so fun. And I think if you watch a couple of games, you pretty quickly realize how fun it can be, especially if you do catch one of those scripted games that it seems that the ones that they're just too good to be true. You catch one
Yeah.
of those games and you're just instantly hooked. Like how do you not get involved in this?
Hmm.
But at the same time, there's tons of people from North America who live in London, so I think it's just a nice way to kind of feel at home a little bit, connect with other people who love the sport that you do, and just have a place to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. It is crazy, like how you said, it's everywhere I go, especially when I didn't live here. It's like you see somebody with the purple hat or the Norseman, and it's like, oh my God, that like those are my people. No matter
Yeah.
where. But let's go into your backstory a little bit. How did you become a Vikings fan living in Canada?
So I have two stories that are both true, and I'll tell you both of them. But like, if I'm like, I don't really want to get into the whole thing, I'll tell this version of the story. Is that the Vikings games were just always on my TV growing up. My brother, huge Randy Moss fan. My dad, big Vikings fan. They were just the
Okay.
team to
Yeah.
support. So I'm like, okay, yeah, easy. Growing up, I was never really into the NFL, but I certainly followed it to the extent that it was always on. If I was
Mhm.
in the living room on Sundays, I
Yeah.
was watching football, that I didn't really have a choice. But learned to love it. Just it was a part of our household, but nothing that I really got super into. But the more fun story, I don't even know if fun is the word, but the more realistic story, but the story that I don't tell everybody, is I was dating a guy. This was back in 2018, and he told me, um, it's September now, and he's like, "Hey Nicole, like I'm sorry, but Sundays, like you're not gonna see me anymore. Like it's been great, but I'll see you every other day. But like Sunday, I can't do it. Like football's about to start." And I was like, "Well, Sundays are the days that we always hang out." So I'm like, "No, okay, I'll I'll watch football with you. I don't dislike it. There's nothing against it, but that was not my chosen way to spend a Sunday. But I figured that I just didn't want to sit around watching Red Zone all day. I knew that I would not like that. So I was like, I need to pick a team to like actually get invested in, to actually enjoy it.
Hmm.
So the simple going back to it with my family ties was the Minnesota Vikings, but also at that time Truth Hurts by Lizzo was all over the radio. So I was like, okay, and I loved the song. It was a great song,
Yeah.
still is. So I was like, okay, I'll pick the Minnesota Vikings, new man on the Minnesota Vikings.
Mhm.
And the rest is history.
Rest is history.
I
And
am no
now,
longer dating that man, but I certainly do have him to thank. I mean, I love my life now. I love the connections that I've made on Twitter, like meeting you, meeting so many incredible women. Have this
mhm.
podcast now because of this Twitter account that I made because I like the Vikings. It's been a wild ride, but thankful for my dad and my brother and Lizzo.
Well, right. And I mean, now you're in London, you're going to see the Vikings in person internationally in London,
Yes,
which
yes,
is crazy. So I'm assuming you have tickets, obviously.
I do. I
Yeah.
do.
And how are you?
Yeah.
Well, have you been to this stadium before? Because I just assumed it was at Wembley.
No, I haven't. No, so Wembley and Tottenham are the two, I mean, the two stadiums that the NFL uses. I don't believe they use any other
Mhm.
um, football, soccer stadiums. Those are the two main ones. When the Vikings played the Saints a couple seasons ago, it was at Tottenham. Um, so the
Was
Vikings
there?
at least are familiar with the stadium, so that's a good thing. But I have not been, but I've heard it's absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning. It does, though, have an open roof.
Oh,
So it may rain. So we will see how that goes. But I mean the
oh,
seats will be covered, but the players will not be.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So it doesn't. Yeah, it obviously doesn't shut then. Interesting. Yeah, I
Mm-mm.
wonder how that'll play out. Because it's well, I don't know. I don't even know if is it turf or is it grass? Who knows?
I want to say it's turf, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I
What,
mean, I
what
know
do
they're
soccer
building it,
players?
but
Yeah. What do soccer players play on? I want to say that they play on. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just exposing myself where I know nothing about
me
about
neither. I don't know
European
either.
football.
I know
But
some things, but not what the grass is. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, so oh my god, I just lost what I was going to say. Oh, okay, so you're going to the game. Do you know? I was reading that it seats like 61,000 or something. It's going to be that many people there.
yes,
What?
I
Really?
mean, I think so. It's completely sold out. I mean, it is unfortunate. I think it's like any sort of ticketing thing. People buy up the tickets, bots, whatever, and then the resale prices are pretty crazy. Um, but as of now, completely sold out event. I think all the games are completely sold out. I think it's going to be the most incredible atmosphere. I
Yeah.
genuinely cannot wait. And the fact that it's going to be a home game and it's just going to be decked out in purple, being like at US Bank Stadium, it's going to be incredible.
So go into what's all going on this week. What are the activities? I know you mentioned you were going to go do some Vikings trivia.
Yes, yes.
Later.
So tonight there's a Vikings pub quiz. Yesterday was when the big festivities started. We actually had Chris Carter and Jake Reed at the yeah, really cool at the home pub. So remember I was saying that each home team has a pub for the week where they just kind of park it and all of the events are there. So that was yesterday at the Greenwood Pub near Victoria Station. Incredible venue. I've never been there before. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm not sure if you've seen any photos, but they've
No.
decked out the entire place. It's so funny. You know when you go into a bathroom stall and there's always like an ad on the back of the toilet door.
Oh,
It's just all Vikings players
yeah.
in the
Oh, really?
women's bathroom. It's absolutely hilarious. But
Is it
on the
current players or
stairs,
is it like the classics?
current players, yes,
Oh,
current players.
okay.
On the stairs leading up to the second floor, there's the Vikings fight song, the lyrics to it, like written out.
Mhm.
It's super cool. All the staff there are wearing Vikings shirts, Vikings posters everywhere. It's incredible. It like when you walk in there, it's just such an amazing feeling.
Oh my god, I love that. Is that where Victor was
Hmm.
yesterday? The mascot?
Yes, it
Okay.
was. It was.
Okay,
And
yeah,
we
so
had
I
a couple
saw
cheerleaders there as well. Um, yeah, it was great.
yeah, I saw okay, I must have saw a picture of Jess from there because I saw her with Victor, and then I just realized before I
Hmm.
hopped on here, you guys had an episode, out today of the on the podcast, so
Yeah, I just posted it about an hour ago. So, I mean, we're talking pretty well about the same things, just about the events this week, how excited we are for them. Um, I'm particularly, and it's funny because I wasn't even going to go to this event. So tonight we have the trivia night, and then tomorrow they're calling it a tailgate, and tomorrow's Friday. And I'm kind of thinking like, how fun could a tailgate on a Friday be? I'm like, they're kind of missing something. I
Yeah.
don't know. Um, but no, I think it's just going to be a really great pub night with a bunch of Vikings fans, and they have cornhole going on. They have a bunch of prizes. Victor also will be back there.
Mhm.
The cheerleaders said they'd be back out, and just music and fun. And there was such an amazing turnout yesterday for Chris Carter and Jake Reed being there. And there's going to be so many more people on Friday because of the games on Sunday. So many people aren't even in town yet.
Yeah.
Um, but they're so I can't wait. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I keep seeing it's surprising to me how many people are traveling there because I've just
Yeah.
seen people on Vikings Twitter that are going, and I'm like, oh, y'all are rich, rich, huh?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, part of me is like, oh, I'll always tell people to travel, especially if the Vikings are the home team for an international game. But I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Like, I'm just so grateful that I live here. But
Right.
if you ever have the opportunity, I think it's so great. I do think it makes a difference that the Vikings are the home team. I was told that when they were the away team against the Saints, they
Mhm.
are a bit more limited in what they can do
Oh,
throughout the week.
I'm
Um, but
surprised.
mhm. But I mean, I don't know what the Vikings international marketing budget is, but they're doing a fantastic job. Like everywhere you look in London, at the tube stations, there's Vikings ads. They have like a little there's like London cabs are a pretty iconic symbol of London, so they've decorated a couple of cabs, just like completely wrapped it in
Oh,
Vikings purple. So those are floating around, but it's just great because people who maybe don't know as much about the NFL, they might have just gotten tickets to the NFL games. They're going to know that the Vikings are the home team. They're going to have seen that ad at the random tube station go on their way to work, and they're going to cheer for the Vikings. It's great.
oh, I love that. That's awesome because, everyone complains about these international games, especially as they continue to expand to like the Brazil game and stuff. And,
Hmm.
Goodell's excuse is always, well, we're going to continue to grow the brand. We're going to, have NFL fans all over the world. And I've always wondered like how well that actually works. But it
Hmm.
sounds like that's so cool that they are putting all of this money, effort, marketing into really making it a group event and like showing how
Yeah.
cool our Vikings fan base is.
Yeah, totally. Well, I completely agree. I think it does, if anything, just showcases what an incredible fan base we have. Because, yeah, they can throw all the money into it, and then if nobody shows up, then it's the fans that are. I mean, obviously the Vikings are doing it too, but it's the fans that really add to the atmosphere and are making it so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because as you said, that's how kind of how you picked up on being a Vikings fan. And I think obviously this is the only experience I have. So it's hard for me to compare it to other things. But just from, the Twitter community and it's like everyone is so welcoming. I feel like we all bond over these traumas that we've went through together. And, just it's just a mindset I think that most people have as a Vikings fan that you can't describe to say a Packers fan or a Patriots fan
Totally.
or things like that. It's just this commonality that we that we all have. But yeah, you touched on Vikings Twitter a minute ago, and give a little backstory on that because you have an interesting story because I followed you for a couple years before I knew that you were Nicole.
Yes.
I
Yes.
thought the whole time
So
maybe you're Nick.
yeah, so I mean, going back to that ex that I had at the time, the Vikings was a really fun thing for us, and we broke up. And of course, I'm trying to go no contact, but the Vikings are doing what the Vikings do, and I just needed to talk to somebody about it. And
Mhm.
nobody else that I knew really followed the Vikings or was able to kind of have a back and forth with me about them. Um, but I was like, I can't text this man anymore. Like, it's embarrassing. I can't do it. I refuse.
Yeah.
So I made a Twitter account. And I often, during the games, I would look on Twitter just to kind of see what other people were saying. So I knew there was a pretty active Vikings Twitter community. So I was like, okay, why not? But while I was browsing on Twitter before I had the account, I would often see, honestly, I'd probably see you on there getting not so nice things being said.
Mhm.
And it really made me hesitate to one, make an account. But then I finally decided to. But I was like, okay, I'm not quite ready to put my name or my face on this account. Um, Mainly because I just didn't want people knowing that I was a woman and maybe looking at the things that I was saying differently, which looking back, I wish I did not go about it that way. And I would tell
Yeah.
any woman listening, like, do what you want. Like, who cares? Like, if you
Yeah.
want to say, like, don't let these men hold you back. But so what I
And you
went
never
with at the
change your name
time,
ever.
yes,
Other
I
than
will never change the username. Well, I should never say never, but just doesn't feel right to change the username. So the username is Vikings WTF because that's something that I would say every single time watching the games. Um, and the handle at the time was crying
Yeah,
because
it
that's
was
what I would
crying.
do.
I forgot that.
So it was so funny. I remember actually at your tailgate, and also too, the photo was, I don't know who made it, and I wish I did. Um, but the meme of Will Smith, that pain photo of him is like the tweet in the background, pain, and it's Will Smith looking sad, but he has a Vikings hat on and a
Yes.
jersey
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So I wish I knew who made that meme because I just think it's absolutely hilarious. And I stole it and I made it my profile photo for years.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that was my identity, my online persona. And then actually at your tailgate, I would meet people and, um, they'd kind of say like, "Oh, like do you have Twitter?" And I'd follow them, and they'd be like, "Wait, this is you? Like
I
that's
know.
you? Like I'm seeing you." Like, or I remember one year, we had a pretty big Vikings meetup at the Cardinals game, and I'd go up to people and be like, "Oh, hey, I'm Nicole," and they'd be like, "Oh, like hi," and I'd be, "Oh no, like I'm crying," and they'd be like, "Oh my god, hey, what's up?" So funny little story. But then I just started to do a little bit more like talking to people and going on podcasts, that sort of stuff. And then it just kind of got tough being like, well, no, actually, my name is Nicole. So, and I was
Right.
posting photos of myself too. So I was like, you know what? My face is already out there. I think it's time for the crying era to be gone. But I will always miss it. It was great. I loved it.
I mean, yeah, your face is already out there. You're already all over Facebook.
Oh God. What
You're
a
already,
weird thing.
you're already all over Facebook. So, okay, you guys, I haven't seen this happening to anyone else, but in our Vikings Twitter community, my photos and Nicole's photos are getting stolen almost. I
I
mean, somebody sent me another one yesterday of someone using my
Why?
photos on Facebook, and they're going into these Vikings fan groups, which I don't. There's like probably 100 of them. Each of them have like
Yeah.
a slightly different name. You know, true Vikings fans for life, Vikings fans forever, Minnesota Vikings fans forever. Like, there's a million of them. Can't keep, but these women, and I put in quotes because I don't know, continue to post my
Yeah,
photo
who
and your
knows?
photo all the time, and it'll always be a caption
Scared.
like, I'm a I'm a woman and I understand football. Can I get a skull? And then I'll look at the comments. It's like 300 comments of these guys being, it's really weird to read the comments of people commenting on your appearance,
Yeah.
but they're not saying it to
But
you.
you weren't the one who put your parents out there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did, and always thank you for sending me those. It's always a shock too, because I always like with the time difference, I always
Um,
wake up to the messages.
Oh
So
no, I'm
I
sorry.
wake up to these and I'm like, okay, so this is the type of day we're gonna have. Like, and
Mm.
I remember the one that got me is like when they used a cover photo of a photo that I did post of my cat. Like
Yeah.
how odd. But I do understand it's like and even like the law behind it. Like I understand if you put a photo of yourself online,
Mm.
you're putting it out there and people technically are allowed to use it. But it's just so weird. And the weirdest part for me, I remember one time when I had met Jason Kelsey at the Eras tour, and I had posted a photo of meeting him, and that kind of blew up a little bit. But then my my friend, and not even related, like, oh, like this is your friend. My friend who is an Eagles fan got sent this photo, my photo, on Facebook and being like, oh, look at this interaction. But it was just so weird because it was Eagles fans posting me to their Eagles Facebook, but they still had the Twitter caption of like me telling Jason Kelsey that I'm a Vikings fan and the Eagles suck. So then you'd have all these Eagles fans commenting and be like, "You're so stupid." Like, but then it
Oh my
was they were
God.
posting it in like Eagles fan forever, Eagles fan for life, like those kind of Facebook page. But
Yeah.
these, like, and I think they were trying to impersonate being a woman, I guess me, I don't know. But they weren't using my name, but were just using the tweet. It was so bizarre. But then I would go in the comments and be like, well, actually, I talk about this on Name One Player. If you want to listen, here's a link. I just
Oh,
responded
good
to
for
every
you.
single one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good for you.
tried to get some traction at least.
Well, it's scary. I mean, I don't know if it's scary. It's the weirdest. I didn't mean to get into all of this, but now that we're talking about it, let's go on a rant about it.
That we're
It's
here down a rabbit hole.
it's like, okay, you take these photos of me and you post them as yourself. That's annoying enough. But then when they literally are taking pictures of my dog and, as you said, your cat,
Hmm.
they will post pictures of a Starbucks order that I have.
That's
And
so weird.
they will be like, oh, one of them, I won't forget, she said, because, okay, so this is controversial. I'm a firm believer
Okay.
that you don't get a pumpkin spice flavor until the first day of fall. So,
Okay. Okay.
people are having it in August, they're having it in the beginning of September. People do what you do that makes you happy. I'm not trying to change anybody. But for me personally, I'm not having it until September 23rd. Well,
Okay.
someone had purchased one for me and it was like September 18th or something. So I post a picture and I'm like, I'm breaking my rule here because this is dropped off. And the person who steals my photo changes it to, I'm a firm believer till don't have pumpkin spice till November 23rd. I'm like, bitch, you just missed all of harvest season. Okay. Like, get it
Oh my
together.
gosh. That's the thing. It's like they take the photos and then don't even get the information right. So now they're taking our identity but making us look dumb. So at least use our actual words if that's what you're gonna do.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes it's your real name, sometimes it's your actual name, sometimes it's like some made up name. I think this newest one is Barbara again, but you just feel it's frustrating and it's like at this point I've accepted that it's just going to happen. But I feel bad for
Mm-hmm.
for the men who end up messaging these people and they have, I mean, this last time I had somebody message me that was like, "Oh my god, I've been talking to quote you for 2 weeks every day, just doing the good morning, how are you, how's your day thing." And it's
No.
yeah, and I feel bad because obviously I don't
That
want anybody
yeah,
to get
that's tough.
scammed. I don't want that happening, but I mean, it's very probable that I can see these people in real life. I mean, if our
Mm-hmm.
common interest is the Vikings, it's very probable I could see them at a Vikings game. I could see them at Target. I could see them anywhere.
Yeah.
And then they're looking at me like, oh, that's the girl who led me on for a month on Facebook Messenger and did who knows what else, took their money or whatever. But she's like trauma
Oh.
dumping, talking about her parents' divorce. And it's like,
Oh my gosh. Barbara, that is wild.
I
That
know.
is wild.
I didn't
Well, the
mean to get into
funniest
all
thing
that,
to
but
me too is that I would not touch Facebook with a 10-foot pole.
no,
Like
no.
there's no way in hell. Like Twitter is crazy enough. Like when I have to tell people like, "Oh yeah, I have a Twitter account and I'll like tweet about the Minnesota Vikings, and like sometimes I'll post like I bought this new shirt today. Like, oh yeah, I posted a photo of this new shirt. Like saying that I do that on Twitter is embarrassing enough. Then like imagine being like, oh, I do it on Facebook. There's no way. There's never any chance that I would do that. So if you ever see a photo of me on Facebook, it is not me because there is no way in hell I would have done that. Absolutely not.
No, but yeah, same. Not me either. The only reason I even belong to any of these groups is to get my photos taken out of them. And the people in there, the takes in there, if you think Twitter takes are bad, these Facebook people are they're on one. But okay, back to we kind of mentioned your podcast earlier, name one player, and you alluded to
Yes.
Vikings Twitter kind of contributing to that idea. So share your inspiration for the podcast and how you decided what topic you wanted to use.
Yeah. So Jules, who you know on Twitter, she tweets a lot about baseball. Somebody, speaking of people taking your photos, saving them in your phone, and then posting them, somebody had done that, but a little bit with a different intent. Somebody had taken her photo and posted it, but was like, girls like this are so stupid. They don't actually like sports. They're just looking for clout. They're just trying to grab the attention of men and ruin their lives and all this. So I don't know what happened to this poor man. Maybe he had somebody on Facebook lead him on. And then, so he just had to take it out on Twitter. Maybe that's actually what happened. Who knows? So he was very upset. But the creepiest part, I think, is that he just saved Jules's photo. Didn't tag Jules, nothing like that, but just posted the photo. So it was brought to Jules' attention. Somebody had sent it to her, and she took what he said, kind of copy and pasted it, but just posted four more photos of her looking really cute at games because he kind of alluded to the fact that like, oh, you just go and you take pictures, you're not actually
Yeah.
watching the game. So all of a sudden I opened Twitter one day back in like January, and I see all these accounts that I follow, women tweeting this like really like women who look like this don't like sports, but like about themselves and all these photos. And I was so confused, but my timeline was just flooded of it. And then I realized that they were all making fun of this man. And I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my whole entire life. And yeah, I don't know if you remember, but the trend kind of took over. And I just realized from that women don't really have a safe space. Like Twitter can be great, but
Mm-hmm.
you are still often being flooded with unwanted opinions from men in particular
Right.
about, your sports takes, maybe about your looks, maybe about like, who knows? It's about everything really.
Slut
And I
shaming.
realized that women don't, yeah. And women
Did
just don't have a place to talk about the sports that they love without that.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, you know what would be fun if I just have a podcast where every single week I bring on a woman and, it's not a Vikings podcast. It's not an NFL podcast. It's just a podcast for any woman who likes any sport to just come on and talk about the sport that they love
Mm-hmm.
without the extra over here.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. I just did my 10th episode and I absolutely love it. I had you on for one of the episodes and it's just so fun. It's just like hanging out with your friends and just talking about the things that you love. It's great.
Yeah. I'm super proud of you that you did that because I know you were contemplating it for a while. And you're
Yeah,
like,
I
oh no,
was.
is anybody gonna listen to this? And then I mean people love it.
Yeah, well, honestly, what I realized too is that like, I mean, it is a lot of work, but even if nobody listens, who cares? Like, I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
It's genuinely so much fun. Like, it really is not for the views, for the engagement. Obviously, that is nice,
Mm-hmm.
but even if just every single week I get to meet a new woman who likes sports and be able to provide like an open and safe space, it's great.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is what I've never had more female friends in my life. I mean, not even close to it than before I joined Vikings Twitter. And it's like having that commonality of the sports is obviously great with any friend, no matter what gender they are. But I think when the women, it's just we have this camaraderie. We can kind of all relate to each
Hmm.
other what we go through with the, oh, you only, the jersey chaser accusations, you
Yeah.
only like sports because it gets attention from men, and or you want to sleep with athletes and things like that. And I think now I feel, and this is kind of happening in the world where everyone is more girls than when at least I was growing up, where everyone tried to
Yeah.
pit us against each other, and everything was a competition. So that is changing. I feel like Gen Z is doing a good job of changing the narrative there. But especially when it comes to our community, I feel like the girls are almost all united. I would say maybe 95%.
Yes. You do have the stragglers, but the ones that, are in it and collectively just for that empowerment and just that fun and that joy that sports can bring, it's incredible.
Yep. And I don't feel like there's like the competitiveness in our community really between the women. And I've
Hmm.
also kind of like your podcast, I've been able to connect with women in so many different that are sports fans of teams that I certainly don't watch or
Yes.
that I don't care about. I mean, there's a lot I'm not really into hockey or baseball that much, but I will follow these women, and I love their content. And then it makes me kind of follow the teams a little bit through them, and I'll know what's going on with, say, the Cincinnati Reds, like Jules, like you said, I
Hmm.
would never know what was going on with them if it wasn't for her. So it's been very cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Drop where everyone can find your podcast.
So I have it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The best place to find it though is on the Instagram, and that is at Name One Player. It's Name One Player on everything, really.
And Name One Player comes from, we didn't touch on that.
From men, and I say this in, okay, again, I need to, that said with a little extra haste that maybe did not need to be said, but with typically men often ask women to prove how much they love the sport that they love. And I find a lot of that comes from the simple question of, well, can you even name one player on the team? So I feel like that's a pretty collective
Yes.
experience for women who love sports, or even just being like, well, like prove how much you like the team. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
nice. It's fun. It's such a fun experience.
Yeah. Well, let us clarify. We are not slandering men. We love men in the Vikings Twitter community.
Never,
They
never.
No, we are not. We love the Vikings Twitter community men. There are some great ones there. There are, of course, some bad eggs, but that's in everywhere. So I don't see them necessarily in our community so much, but they are out there, and
Yes.
they do say that. Okay, well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining me. This has been awesome. I love catching up with you in the midst of
Yes.
moving back over here. So maybe you can make it to a game, I hope.
Yes. I hope so too. And you will be the first to know so that I can come to your tailgate.
Yes, I would love to see you there, of course. Okay, well, thank you for tuning in, everybody. We cannot wait to, I mean, I can't wait to wake up early and see the Vikings crush the Jets. And I can't wait to hear about Nicole's experience actually going to the game. And
Yes.
this crowd, the shots of the crowd, I can't wait to see that. All the purple either. So,
Oh, it's going to be incredible.
uh,
Incredible.
thank you guys for listening to Skoldiers and Spice. Again, I'm Sally. This is the Vikings First and SKOL Network. And thank you so much for listening. SKOL Vikings.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And rate us on your favorite aggregator. And a big shout out goes to Sal and her guests on this Vikings First and SKOL production, partnered with the Fans First Sports Network. Thanks, everyone, and SKOL.